Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The Michigan commitment sweatshirt back on as Michigan lands the commitment from former Youngstown State wide receiver CJ Charleston. Dill, a wide receiver that we talked a little bit about yesterday afternoon, commits to Michigan. Want to get into what CJ Charleston brings to the table for this Michigan offense. Take a look at this pass catcher room in general. I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, wasn't too familiar with CJ Charleston. I don't watch a ton of Youngstown State football in the fall, but over the last couple of days, as Michigan offered him and kind of identified him as a target, dove into some of the numbers, want to get to that, talk about this Michigan pass catching room. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, the Michigan fans. It has been an absolute blast talking this program. You guys know the boys are big Michigan fans, and the amount of support y'all have shown the fellas truly does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, would love to hear how the Michigan fans are feeling about this one in the comments section. And Dale, I'll give you the first word here. CJ Charleston coming to Michigan. How are we feeling?
I mean, I think the thing that stands out is you're just adding a reliable body in that wide receiver room, which is very much needed. You heard Kirk Campbell talking about it at the end of the spring game, and they needed another guy who's caught balls at the college football level, because you kind of look, you really only have two guys in that wide receiver room with Samaj Morgan and Tyler Morris who have been productive at the college football level. So again, to add a guy like CJ Charleston, who's been playing forever, very familiar with the Michigan staff, with Josh Synagoga being an analyst on staff, having coached CJ Charleston for the last few years at Youngstown State. So again, familiar with this, or should be there. The staff should be familiar with him and his fit and what he's going to bring. And if they are, that's all that I think Michigan really needs.
That makes you feel much better. Like, I think a lot of Michigan fans were probably in the same boat as I was when we saw Michigan offer him about 48 hours ago. Oh, CJ Charleston, not too familiar with him. Got to do some research. But, I mean, as Michigan fans, you got to feel really good that an analyst on this Michigan program has worked with CJ Charleston in the past, kind of can bang the table for what he can provide to Michigan. You look at the wide receiver in CJ Charleston, I mean, caught for over 500 yards last year. I think the number that I have circled, 15 yards per reception. Michigan has been looking to be a little bit more explosive in the passing attack. I think that 15 yards per catch makes you feel pretty good. Only 2 drops. And a guy that has 237 yards after the catch is a guy that's going to be reliable with his hands, give you some juice after the catch. But, Bill, I think you said it best. Like, more importantly, just being a reliable body that has played a lot of college football during his career, because you look at that Michigan pass catcher room and say there's not a ton of proven production in that room. One other note I have before we talk about the Michigan pass catching room is Michigan's had a ton of success with these kind of guys. Like, you go back to how they recruited the high school ranks, guys like Mikey Sandstrom or Ronnie Bell, 2-star Ronnie Bell coming on, becoming an NFL draft pick. Michigan has had a ton of success finding, for lack of better terms, diamonds in the rough that not a lot of Power 5 programs are interested in, identifying those guys, getting them in the program, having a lot of success with them. CJ Charleston maybe could be that kind of guy for Michigan. Dill,
I mean, even doing that in the portal too with guys like Josh Wallace. So again, just Michigan's ability to identify those guys who fit a specific need. And is he going to come in and be the number one guy on the Michigan offense? Probably, or obviously not, I guess. But again, if they believe he fits in that offense and in this program, it's really hard to doubt what Michigan's been doing for the past couple of years. And obviously you have a lot of staff continuity as much as you lost guys. So, I mean, you just feel good about what Michigan's doing when they identify this.
And at the end of the day, it's just you kind of need another body. Like, you were pulling up the depth chart here, and I am really excited about these 3 wide receivers and Samaj Morgan, Tyler Morris, Freddie Moore. I think the common denominator with all of them is, at the oldest, you're Tyler Morris, only going into year 3. It's a young wide receiver room with a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. But, Dill, you're going to see a lot of national media analysts look at this Michigan team and say the pass catchers are not where they need to be for Michigan. Michigan fans are sitting there saying, we got one of the best pure pass catchers in the country sitting at our tight end spot. And again, a lot of the media outlets that are looking at this Michigan team, just looking at the wide receiver, and you make no mistake about it, the passing game for Michigan has historically gone through the tight ends, and we got the best one in the country heading into 2024.
And you even look, I mean, you add another guy in Marlon Klein, who obviously you got to see a little bit in the spring game. You got 2 true freshmen who are not ultra productive, but ultra talented. Some of those things you kind of look for. And frankly, you look at the way Colston Loveland can be used. He lines up everywhere on the field. So played wide receiver. You go back to that Maryland game, caught a lot of balls from that position, was really productive in that position. So again, to me, it's like you're probably only going to see a max of 2 wide receivers on the field for the most part in a given play, just given where Michigan's at, given what we think these true freshman tight ends might be, along with the fact that you have Loveland and Klein, who you feel really good about. So again, you don't necessarily need a zillion guys in that wide receiver room like you would on an Ole Miss or one of those teams that really likes to spread out. Tennessee for like falls.
And you look at it, we got one of the best pass catching running backs in the backfield as well. Like you talk about Michigan's passing attack, tight ends, running backs. I think you made a really good point. A lot of people will kind of I'm included as a Michigan fan saying would like to see Michigan go after some more coveted wide receivers in the transfer portal on the recruiting trail. But the bottom line is, Michigan runs a lot of 12 personnel. And you said it best. Most of the time, Michigan is running plays with only 2 wide receivers on the field, 2 tight ends and a running back. That is not a coincidence that Michigan maybe doesn't recruit the wide receiver position all that well, though they just have 2 wide receivers drafted over the weekend. But then more importantly, why does Michigan recruit like the best team in the country at the tight end position? It's because we get our tight ends involved. That's where we put a lot of priority in terms of the recruiting trail. And that's what our passing attack is kind of situated.
But again, you're even recruiting tight ends like Brady Prescorn, for example, who you kind of watch his high school tape, plays a lot on the wide receiver spot. And again, have the athleticism to not just be inline tight ends. And like AJ Barner is an awesome player. You want to take anything away from him, but Michigan has a lot of guys who maybe more lean towards that Colston Loveland route where it's not just inline tight end. It's playing everywhere. It's being able to produce everywhere. I think Hogan Hansen fits that bill too. So again, you just kind of have like 4, 5, 6 tight ends who all can, for the most part, not necessarily need to be tight ends exactly.
A little bit of a ricochet shot on my guy AJ Barner. Thought he was
not a ricochet shot. It's just like, again, it's a different type of tight end, and it's more of a modern tight end, frankly. AJ Barner, there's a reason he was drafted wherever he was. I think it was the 4th round. He's a really good player, and you need those tight ends. And it's nice that Marlon Klein and Colston Loveland have shown the ability to play the way AJ Barner does and be able to block and play physical, along with the being able to be a little bit more.
Hey, you make no mistake about it. Michigan puts a lot of responsibility on their tight ends. Like, you're going to be centered in the pass catching department, but you also have to inline block. You need to get it done blocking as well. Colston Loveland taking massive steps in that direction. Dill, before we close out, I'm gonna float out an idea for you. That's Amarian Walker, getting him and DJ Waller mixed up. Amarian Walker potentially coming back to Ann Arbor, potentially making the switch back to wide receiver. How are we feeling about that one?
You don't mind it, obviously. He was a guy who came out as a wide receiver, and frankly, you got to see him in that spring game play the corner spot, and it didn't look like it was necessarily his spot. It didn't look like he was ever going to be an amazing corner. So, again, moving back to maybe where he's a little more comfortable. Obviously, you continue probably to want wide receivers, and you heard them say they want to target a couple. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear that Michigan's not done in that wide receiver room.
And what intrigues me about Amarian Walker and CJ Charleston is you take a guy in CJ Charleston where he's probably not going to be an all Big Ten receiver, right? He's probably going to be a pretty solid receiver, do a lot of the good things you need him to do. The upside's probably not much, right? He's going into his 5th year, spent his first 4 years at Youngstown State. Amarian Walker, on the other hand, less of a known commodity. Like, we haven't seen him play that much football. Not as much like his fault. He started out as a wide receiver, 2nd year as a cornerback, has kind of pinballed around. The profile, 6'3", 190, the speed that he has, the ability to change direction. You saw the 3-cone drill. This is a guy with an elite athletic profile that hasn't just quite figured it out at the wide receiver or cornerback position yet. As a Michigan fan, I look at Amarian Walker and say, one, fits exactly what we want as a wide receiver, right? What have we been banging the table for? A bigger frame wide receiver that can work vertically and on the boundary. Amarian Walker's that guy. Then more importantly, I think the upside on that kid is so high if you get him back in the Michigan program and just let him focus and develop as a wide receiver. Dill, I think Amarian Walker would be a massive addition to this Michigan pass catching room. I like it. Kind of to wind down, CJ Charleston is not going to get a ton of national media attention. I think the Michigan fans know We need another wide receiver. We needed a veteran wide receiver in that room. I think CJ Charleston can come in and kind of be that kind of guy. Like the pickup. Michigan has been very successful with these kind of pickups in the past. We'll close it out on that. Appreciate the Michigan fans rocking with the fellas. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.